Hey, we're back, episode 2. On this episode, we're talking about making good coffee while camping and a general rule for grind size. Check it out. What's up, everyone? It's good to see you again. We're back. We're going to answer some questions. These are real questions that people either emailed in or wrote in on Facebook or Instagram. And you can do that too. We'd love to help you get more out of your coffee. The first question is from Rose B, and she wrote in on Facebook. How do I make a good cup of coffee while camping? That's tricky because you don't have all of the equipment that you might have at home or power that you might have at home, unless you're glamping, in which case maybe you do and you just bring your whole kit. But what would you say, Dennis? What's some good ways things to keep in mind if you're going to make coffee while camping?
Yeah, I mean, brewing coffee while camping, obviously, like the things you mentioned, where you're dealing with less amenities. So it's really making decisions based on how you're camping versus how dialed in you need that coffee to be.
Right.
If you're ultralight packing, versus car camping versus just taking an overnighter or something like that. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, the first thing is, what's your brew method going to be? For camping, I like something lightweight. You can do like kind of a mesh pour over system that they make a bunch of backpacking friendly types
that
of
even
brewing.
like fold up and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The AeroPress, which is a great method, is very conducive for camping. It's small-ish, really lightweight, super durable, and you can kind of pack all of your filters and even your bag of coffee in that cylinder if you want. I've done that before. So that's really nice. I've used a French press before, not a glass one, obviously, but it's a little bulkier, but it's also probably the most forgiving method. So really, again, brewing coffee while camping, it's the same set of variables that you have to deal with at home, just in a little less forgiving environment. Bringing your water to temperatures, and not one of your considerations.
Right. So if you don't bring a thermometer with you, for example, because you're not going to carry a thermometer with you, maybe, and you don't have a variable temp kettle. If you remember, we talked about the last episode, we want to be in the 195 to 205 Fahrenheit range. And normally if you boil a kettle and take it off for about 45 seconds or so, that's probably right in the 200 degree range, plus or minus. But if it's really cold out, it's going to drop much quicker if it's like 6 in the morning, up in the Northwest or something like that, and it's 40 degrees out or 35 degrees out or something, or maybe even colder. I don't know. Well, I don't know where you're making it, but you may need to just let it go for 15 seconds and then immediately start brewing or something like that. Now, the other thing is grinder, too. There's lots of portable hand grinders out there that are pretty lightweight if you want to grind it fresh, which is ideal and delicious.
Grinding fresh is always better, and that kind of, again, it's a question of your trade-off. How much do you want to carry versus, what level of coffee do you want to brew? If you can get a little hand grinder, those are great. If that's a little heavy for how you're packing or for space, take it ground and let the scenery sweeten your coffee.
That's funny. So if you're packing light, something like an AeroPress, a small hand grinder, and maybe just a couple tin cups and some way to boil water, like a kettle over your campfire, would be perfect. If you have a little bit more and you want to take a little bit more, like a French press, if you have several people, that's really easy to set up and pretty forgiving, as you said, too. So hopefully that helps, but keep writing in some questions here. I've got Joseph, or maybe Yosef L., who wrote in and said, as far as coffee questions go, I'd love to see a definitive, well-researched guide on what finenesses of grind should be used on what preparation. Something that's explained like Alton Brown from Good Eats would explain something. I just don't know what to use for what preparation, but also why I should use it. So for that, as much as I would love to just go cut and go straight to an Alton Brown style segment, I think we have a few thoughts though about grind size in general rules about it. Dennis, take it away.
Yeah. So basic rule with grind size to brewing method, the longer your water is going to be in contact with the coffee, the coarser the grind. I.e. the coarser grinds for something like a French press
right.
or another immersion method.
Where you're maybe doing 4 to 5 minute brew times.
Yeah, and I always, I like to stick with, like with a French press, a 4-minute water contact time before you're plunging it. But you've got your water sitting there with the coffee, and so you don't want a super fine grind. You're going to get a lot more of the insolubles.
Yeah, we get a lot of grit in there.
Seeping through that sieve, and you don't really need the grind to be fine enough to really help you out with the extraction, because you've got that water contact, and you can add a little turbulence by
stirring it,
or even pouring the water itself.
Versus something like a pour over.
Like a pour over, you've got the water is only going to be in contact with the coffee for as long as it takes
that grind,
gravity to draw that water through. So you need to have a finer grind. You want to have a more even distribution of particle shapes and stuff, so you're evenly extracting from the coffee. And that's where you're kind of starting out in that sort of
the kosher salt range.
Salt sort of range. And then there's something like a Turkish coffee where you're basically pulverizing your coffee and then brewing it.
Yeah, that's the super other, or one that we see every day though is like a espresso. You may not make it at home, but espresso is very, very fine because it's extracting in 20-30 seconds tops.
Right. Yeah. And there's another variable with the espresso.
Yeah, with pressure. Yeah.
Incredible amounts of pressure.
So the general rule to sum it up is, the longer the water contact time with the coffee, the more coarse your grind needs to be. So French press, for example, is going to be like a very heavy salt, like a thick, coarse table salt, where you're actually seeing large chunks. Do you have a good way to describe that?
Too coarse for any other method.
Yeah, that really is. Go very coarse, and then you can back it off a little bit if it hasn't. Anyway, and then kosher salt is where we're going to start for any kind of pour over or auto drip brewer, where it's drawing through. It's drawing through the coffee bed. So hopefully that kind of gives a little primer on it. Maybe eventually we'll get to Alton Brown's level of budget for this. For now, that's some really good general rules. The best thing to do is pick one that's kind of appropriate for your method, and then make adjustments based on your tastes after that. In episode 2, I noticed. Yeah.
What are you doing? This could be. Eventually we'll have an episode on the Easter eggs.
Yeah.
You'll notice in episode 2 there was an AeroPress. And then there wasn't.